most prompts you've ever written look the same. That's because you use something like write this email, summarize this text, reply to this customer. It is often more like a single instruction, which is also going to give you a single output, and it's more like you writing a straight line from start to finish. So here's the problem. Real life doesn't work in a straight line. It's more like if a customer message you like giving a complaint, or let me say a refund request, or this person is a sales lead that is worth about $10,000, a real assistant will know that there is always a difference in response for any condition that comes in this case. You cannot be using a linear prompt and be expecting the response to be different at every single time. In this case, you are not teaching AI how to make choices because you don't have a system. You are just using it like a typewriter. But today, I'm going to show you how to build real decision making into your prompts, so the AI will stop giving you the same response at complete different situations that you give it. And I'm going to give you 3 things in the next couple of minutes, the simple syntax that I believe can turn any prompt into a logic-driven instruction. This is not a code, this is not automation tools, this is just basically plain English that I'm going to give you. I'm also going to show you a live demo where I'm going to take a customer's message and I'm going to show you how the AI is going to undo it like it has been trained like an employee for you rather than just a chatbot. So, and I'm also going to show you one last thing, which it's a technique I actually call the chain of thoughts. I didn't come up with this, I saw this online as well. This cuts the errors AI make every time by at least 50% when you're working on your complex rules that you're working with. If you're new here, I am Jude, you can call me Nirvana. For the last 4 years, I've been building AI systems for agencies and startups, and including businesses and clients they work with, which I've influenced as well as their AI marketing automation specialist. So this is the day 4 of the 5 layers of AI series. And if you've been following this series from day 1, you remember I also mentioned that we're doing this for the next 60 days. So in 2 months, we're going to cover from foundation level of AI, which is the theoretical aspect I've been explaining, and into the practical aspect, which is building autonomous systems. So for the day 1, what I talked about was how to talk to the machine, which is how to talk to the AI. And the day 2 was what should you feed this AI. The day 3 was where to point AI to. What exactly do you want it to go? Which line do you want it to follow? And today we're going to focus on how to make it think better. And I believe that by the end of this video, your prompt will stop being like instructions and it will start looking like workflows that you're giving AI every single time. So we're going to do this together where we're going to write one prompt that is going to handle 5 different situations correctly, the way a real assistant, the way someone like a virtual assistant or an executive assistant is going to address this situation. So basically, this is layer 1 and part 4, which I call the conditional logic. Let's make it bigger. Here's the shift I want you to make. I want you to stop writing prompts and start writing decision trees. A prompt tells AI what to do, while a decision tree, as I call it, tells the AI what to do and when to do it. It is more like the difference between a tool that responds and a tool that actually thinks better on how it wants to approach that particular situation. Computers run on 2 things, ones and zeros, as we all know it, the ones and zeros. And these are basically, to me, I see it as Boolean, which is also a yes or a no, or a true or a false. Now, in this case, every piece of software that you have used, that you've ever used, from your apps on your phones to even the websites we visit, to every tool that we've worked with, is built on millions of yes or no decisions stacked upon each other. And intelligence works the same way, AI works the same way, where smart people aren't smart because they have more knowledge. They are smart because they ask the right question, and that is like the yes or no question, and they ask it at the right time. So an example that I will give here is, if a customer is angry, yes or no. We also make use of this where we ask, does this lead have a budget, yes or no. I've built systems, I've even built even to the smallest of forms, which has conditional logics, which would pass in the details of this lead and filter them based on the amount that this lead has put into it, to know if this person is ready to actually go on call and this person is a lead that is ready to invest into the solution that particular agency is going to work on for them. There are other instances where it can be an email where you ask, is this email urgent, yes or no. So based on the input, it's going to take this logic, that is what it's going to use to give you a response. When you write a linear prompt, you often skip this question entirely because you force the AI to ignore the situation that you are giving it, which is the fact that you are giving it something generic. You are just writing something that you just expect it to give you an answer on its own. But when you write a conditional prompt like this, you are giving this AI more like a map to follow, where it knows exactly what to do when it hits a fork in the road. Basically, you are more like giving it an upgrade. So in this case, what I have here is what I call the linear and branch, and I am taking use of these are generic prompts, me just giving it something as simple as this and telling it, if I give it something like this, it gives me a response that is just a long, polite. It gives me the same thing AI gives every single person when you just ask it a generic prompt with no context, no information, no example. You're not giving it a task to actually do. But when you are giving it an option where it knows, it has to know the process it needs to take and when to take it. An example here, just checking in on the project status. It gets to know, is this message coming from a client? Is he a spam or is he a new lead? And it's going to reply with an action. Another example here now is, I use this like an obvious spam, investing in crypto millionaire opportunity. It gets to see this and it actually gives a response in return here, where it's going to reply with a polite response, where in this case it gets to know, is this spam, is this from a client or is this from a lead? Based on the conversation and the logic you've built into the AI, it gets to understand which step to actually take. You can see this last example where we are taking use of it. This is an interactive space and I'm going to give you access to it. This here, we're asking it something around this where, hi, we are looking for help and our budget is this. Now in this case, it gets to understand that this is a new lead coming into your agency, where it signifies it that this is a new lead and it adds it to the pipeline. People use of a lot of steps now. Even examples are like the open claw, which is probably one of the most popular tool that they use out there now on the agentic layer. And one thing is that most, if not addressed with the right prompt and the right steps, it's being able to understand if it's going through the right option. In this case, your open claw agent might just focus on this spam and respond to it. But if you build it with the right logic, it's going to know this is spam and it's going to skip it. It doesn't have to reply it and it's not going to waste your time. I'm going to show you an example for you to also see why this really matters. A few months ago, I was building a system for a B2B agency, and the founder was basically, it was actually down because he was getting about 50 leads a day from his website. He had a very small team. When we talked, he told me the same process he was going through with me was the fact that he had to personally jump on every call with most of those leads. So the problem there was that about 40 of those leads every day had no business talking with him because these people had no budget, they had no real company, and they don't actually really need his services. But he still gets this every single day. So it was burning about 4 to 5 hours a day on conversations that really matter because they are going nowhere. While the real leads that is actually supposed to seal, sometimes is getting ghosted because he's busy and he just feels like, okay, he's going to repeat the same thing he has been doing, meeting the unqualified leads. But if he had just used an AI to work on this process where he's going to understand he needs to add a logic inside this, it will have come up in a different way. It will have given him a different result. So what he told me was that he a response to incoming leads, and what I needed to do at that moment was I needed to build something that will ensure that I'm going to feed this into his system where the AI responds to these leads immediately, and we're going to understand if these people actually the qualified leads, or right before they even book his call. Rather, we're going to put a conditional logic there which let us understand if these people are really interested. So I gave his AI at that moment a conditional logic right from the form that takes these people in to know if they are ready to actually invest into the business. So I had more like a logic gate around his AI layer right there. So the rule is simple. The rule is very simple. If a lead had a working website and they had their website into it, it's going to mention a budget of over $2,000. Then it's also going to give them the booking link directly, because it seems like these people are actually more interested into what he has to offer, and these are his qualified leads. If this lead had no budget, or probably is not a real business, maybe someone just sending an email or trying to reach out to him to offer their services as well, it's going to send them to free training resources so that they don't get to waste his time. So the idea is that single piece of conditional logic we added there will save this person, and it has saved a lot of founders as well, roughly a couple of hours, 10 hours of jumping on calls every single week. Now the idea behind this is that it's not a prompt. We are not using a prompt for this. We are more like building a system, and this system just took me about 15 minutes to build. And that is the power of if-then thinking. This conditional logic, why I give it a structure. So here is the structure. You don't need to know how to code. You just need 3 words every single time. That's the if, then, and the else. That is basically the whole syntax. So the first one, if, that's the condition that the AI is looking for. That is more of the AI understanding if this, make use of this as example, the AI is trying to understand if this customer mentions he wants a refund, if the lead has a budget of over $5,000, and if the email is marked as urgent, probably like a support. So the other one that we'll make use of is the then. After the if is the then, and this is more like the action you should take. What does the AI do when this condition is being met? So an example is, then, let's make use of this for example, then it is going to provide the refund policy and it's going to apologize to them. Or then it's going to send them a booking link. Or then it's going to also probably forward the email and notify the team. In this case, it's probably going to notify the team. And the last one, or then, is going to send them the booking link, or it is going to forward it and move them from a standard reply, a standard AI reply, and it's going to forward it to notify the team. We can also see an example here which we make use of the last one, which is the else. Now, where we use this is more like a backup plan. It is, what does this AI do when the condition of the then is not being met? That is, what happens? Like the 3 examples I've shown you all through now, from the lead qualifier, the email, triage, and the support routing, you get to see that it's more of giving it, for that else, it's giving it, else is going to thank them and it's going to close the conversation, because in this case, it gets to understand that they are not the real leads. So it's going to jump them or direct them to a free resource. And in this case, we get to understand that it's going to send a free resource to them. It's going to send a free to them, or it's going to thank them and close the conversation, or it's going to file it under low priority. That is if it understands that the problem you're trying to solve, in this case of the support routing, is something that has been solved before and there is documentation for it. It's going to direct them there instead. So when we look at this, the if, then, and else logic, that is basically the entire logic gate, that when you write a prompt this way, you are more like you are building rules inside a guessing machine, and you are forcing it to structure into a tool that defaults from chaos into something that is going to give you like a consistent output every time. Okay, so I'm going to show you how this works in action. I'm going to paste a customer message, And first, what I'm going to do is I'm going to use the linear method, which I explained about. And that's the way most people do it. So I'm going to use the linear method before I'm also going to now use the logic method, which has the if, then, and the else. So I'm going to show you right through. All right, this is where I get to understand this. So I'm going to paste a customer message, and the one I'm going to use here is, I bought your product 2 weeks ago and it's broke. I want my money back. This is unacceptable. So I'm going to tell it, read this customer message and write a response. My God. Okay, yes. Well, English. So I'm telling it to write a response based on this. Okay. So it took time. It's actually thinking as well. Okay. So the way it responds now, we can see when you look at this, it sounds polite. It actually sounds a bit better based on the details I have on my Gemini. It's been influenced by that. But when you look at this, and let's use something like ChatGPT for example, and use the same, because this one doesn't have any influence since I'm not signed in, and we use the same thing, we get to see that the response is going to give us this time will not be influenced by the chat I have currently in my, because I don't often use ChatGPT. So we see what it gave us in this case is more like a polite and a generic apology, and it promises to look into it, and it's going to also offer to make things right too. We like to make things right. Okay, so basically what we see here is it sounds very useless. It sounds, well, it's nice, but it sounds useless as well, because doesn't tell the customer what is actually going to happen. It's not telling the customer this is what we're going to do. But if we get to use this instead, so in this same chat GPT, I'm going to duplicate this, and I'm going to have it, we are not being influenced by any chat here. Same thing, since I haven't logged in. So I have a pre-written text already. Let me see if, okay, yes, all right, the rest are showing as well. So what you can see here is that I told it to analyze the customer message below. If the message mentions a refund and shows anger, then reply with the refund policy link and a one-sentence apology. So I now said, if the message asks a question, without anger, then answer the question directly using the FAQ data I'll provide. So otherwise, we're going to thank them for their feedback and ask if there is anything else that they need. So you can see the customer message I have here, and we're going to send it now. Alright, so you can look at the difference. The AI made a decision, and it was very simple. Because of the condition I already gave it here, it saw the anger, because the customer message said, I bought your product 2 weeks ago and it's broke. I want my money back. This is unacceptable. It showed the anger. It showed the refund mentioned as well. It also went directly to the right part I gave it, which was the first one. I told it to reply with the refund policy link and one sentence apology, and that was what it gave me. In this case, we're not having something that uses up a token, and it doesn't give us something as long as this, which is going to use up our token, and it's quite unnecessary. So it just gave a simple response that actually solves this problem, because we're giving it this if-else condition. Now, when we notice this now, I'm using ChatGPT for the both, so I'm using the same AI, the same model, and within 5 seconds, you can see that the first prompt made the AI react, the second prompt made it think based on the logic I've given it. This is basically an upgrade of what we have here. So let's go back to the next one, which I want to give you one more tool which you can use here, and that's what I call the chain of thoughts. Now, in this chain of thoughts, you can see it is a small addition you make to any logic prompt that improves the accuracy dramatically. So here is the line. Before the AI gives you the final answer, you are going to tell it, briefly explain the reasons for you to choose that particular path that you are choosing. And that is how it happens here. So what happens when you add this? The AI slows down. It slows down and it checks its own work against the rules you originally gave it. It's going to catch its own mistakes before it commits to an answer. So in studies and in my own builds, That's the single line that actually cuts errors between 40 to 50% on most of the complex business tasks I've worked with. Because we can see how this works without a chain of thoughts. It's giving us something as simple as this, right? However, it is not still what we want, but this time around we're giving it as much detail that makes it read the rules. It's going to check the condition you're giving it. It's going to think better, and it's going to confirm before acting. So you can think of it like this. Basically, you're not telling the AI to make a test. You are more like telling it to show how it is working. That is one of the reasons why what is being applied to Gemini, to ChatGPT and other platforms, which you use the thinking process, it's more like that same process where it shows it's working. It is like when you're writing an exam, a student that is writing an exam shows the working before they were able to arrive at their final answer, especially in subjects like maths. So you get to know which students rush to get the answer, and you just mark them wrong because you don't see any workings towards it. But in this case, you get to understand how and what they used to think. That is why in this process you can skip it manually, but you can also initiate this as well by yourself. Now, most of the AIs out there, this thinking process, this chain of thought, is for pro plans. It's being used by pro plans. But if you don't have a pro plan, you can still make use of this by adding it manually yourself. It is going to go through it and it's going to perform the same effects it is meant to use. Because the addition being added by these AI companies like Gemini, ChatGPT is just this simple process. They are adding the chain of thoughts. They are adding this logic into the AI to ensure it thinks. It processes every single detail here. An example I'm going to give you is this. I'm going to make use of Gemini, which I had here, and I use this. You can show the thinking. So this is following the rules. Exactly how I'm telling you, it's going to follow the rules, and this is what it's going to use to understand what you give you back. Now, one thing about this is that most of the time, it is when it comes to people using free plans, but if you are using a free plan which you cannot access this every single time, that thinking is just an effect that they gave it. It's not an expensive feature. It's not meant to be an expensive feature if you can work around it manually yourself. So adding a chain of thought makes your AI think better. It gives the AI the same logic of it following the rules, it reading the rules rather, and following the conditions you've set in place, and thinking about it to itself and knowing if this step is the right step to take. So before I let you go, I want you to think about your own work today. And I want you to just bring it up and see what is the most annoying repetitive task that you've probably done this week. Is it probably replying inquiries? Is it you are sorting messages? Or is it maybe you are trying to decide on which follow-up to give the leads you have? Or let me say you have customer complaints and you want to address them. If you are following this same rule, which is going to work on the logic gates, it's going to use the chain of thought as well. If you are following this same rule, you just need to ask yourself what the secret is behind a if then. If you are trying to apply this into the task you are working on, and see if your brain follows that particular task. So what I'm saying here is that manually look at a task that you are working on and see if you can add this particular condition into it. Can I add a if else into it? Can I give it a condition where it says it takes this particular part, or it takes this part, or it thinks like this, and from that condition it understands this has passed the condition and it sends it to the next step, which is the then. It's going to take the step, and if it's not going to take that particular step, it goes to the else. The else, which means what is the backup move, what should we do next? So I added this other thing. You can play with the tool yourself. You can see how it works. This is for a lead. I use it to build the prompt here. Same thing for this. Let me build this prompt as well. And this last one, which was an invoice handler. So when you use something like this, you can just look at it in your head, make the rule in your head. You can probably write it down. You can write it down if you can't, articulate it cleanly. And if you actually see that you cannot articulate it very well, that means that you are not even meant to automate it in the first place. You are meant to see how the task is going to go. So for the task I'm going to give you today, since you are following this, I want you to pick one repetitive task that you handle every single day, write it down. So you write the if, then, and the else rule, and let your brain run it. And every time you see it, you are going to now understand, yes, you can apply this rough version from your paper. You can apply this. Probably you use a paper, you use your notepad or whatever you use. When you write it down, you can now build a prompt behind it and see if this can actually automate a task for you. So right from the prompting, you can see if your task can be automated before we even jump to the layer 2, which is that's building automation to back our AI. That's the AI automation builds that we're going to make. So tomorrow, that is exactly where we are going. And one more thing before I go. If you want to go deeper into understanding this chain of thought, how this chain of thought works, and why it works at the technical level, and how the best researchers also in the AI field are even using they are using this process to push their research further. There is a guide I'm going to add to this video, and it's called the prompting guide. So there is this article on the chain of thoughts on that site that has a very clean breakdown that I found. It takes about 10 minutes read, and when I first went through that particular article, it changed how I structure every single prompt I make. And I make it, well, a bit complex, but because I understand that once I use this, the data I apply to this, the accuracy just goes up. It's just by asking the AI to think step by step every single time. So in this moment, you will not have to rely on just plain prompts. You'll be able to let your AI skip the line of plain prompts and apply this thinking into it numerously. So I'm going to attach that into the link in description, so you can read it before you go to the day 5 of this whole series. So tomorrow, day 5, is more like the final day for layer 1, and we're going to go into something which I call the meta prompt. So until now, you have been writing prompts yourself, but tomorrow I'm going to show you how to make AI write prompts for you as well. I'm going to show you how to build a system where you describe what you want in plain English, and the AI generates the perfect logic gate, uses the perfect anchor and the perfect structure as well for any task that you have that is going to also come next. So it's more on, you are going to train a meta prompt that is going to handle even recurring tasks as well. So I'm going to close this, and I'm going to, right after tomorrow, I'm going to move on from layer 1 to layer 2, and that is where we lift this old chat window for good and we start building real life automations. So before any of that, I want you to finish today's task. Find one rule, think about it. Can I apply the if, then, and the else logic? Write it down, probably on a paper, your notepad. Write it down, and then you see if you can add this into your prompt to automate it. So from then on, see you on day 5, and peace. Okay.